Hello, how are you? My name is Ruben Borges. I am a safety officer, and I welcome you to the safety induction video for the construction of the Terminal Cuenca del Plata. Terminal Cuenca del Plata is a terminal specialized in container handling, composed of 80% ownership by the Belgian group Katoen Natie and 20% by the National Ports Administration. The Katoen Natie group has a presence in more than 30 countries and operates over 150 logistics platforms on all continents. What we are looking in this video is that you come to work, carry out your task in a safe manner without having any accidents, understand the basic concepts of safety, and be able to return home very peacefully. General coexistence rules. It's mandatory for all workers to comply with safety standard. Any breaches in safety standard must be managed proactively to avoid accidents. Anyone found in violation of safety standard may have their access to the terminal or construction site blocked. Regarding access control, every person must have specific documentation. Once this documentation is provided to TCP, a card will be assigned. This access card is non-transferable, meaning it cannot be delegated to another person and must be always kept on one's person while on site. The use of cell phones while performing tasks within the terminal and construction site is strictly prohibited. Cell phones should only be used externally, not during work tasks. Taking photographs and videos is also forbidden unless expressly authorized by TCP. The use of cell phones while driving any vehicle or machinery is also prohibited. Regarding circulation rules, the maximum speed within the construction area is 10 km per hour. Seatbelts must be always worn, and vehicle lights must be on. It is forbidden to transport people in cargo equipment and heavy machinery. The use of cell phones while driving, as mentioned before, is prohibited, as is drinking beverages while driving. Alcohol and drug policy. Terminal Cuenca del Plata maintains a zero-tolerance policy for the presence of alcohol or drugs in the body while performing tasks. Zero-tolerance policy also for the possession of alcohol and drugs during work hours. As such, Terminal Cuenca del Plata reserves the right to conduct non-invasive analysis using widely accepted methods on all individuals working on site. Any person may be selected for these tests. Smoking is forbidden in all areas of the site. Designated smoking areas will be properly delimited and marked. Hazards in workplaces. As a safety measure, is mandatory the use of certain personal protective elements to protect the physical integrity of the workers. These include the use of safety glasses to prevent particle projection, wearing helmets to protect against possible head injuries, the use of high-visibility vests to be easily watched by machinery drivers, and using safety footwear with puncture-resistant toe caps to prevent foot injuries. Statistically, 85% of accidents happened because one's own actions or negligence. 10% are caused by the actions of others towards us, such as someone using a grinder projecting spark towards a passerby. And only 5% are caused by unsafe working conditions. What are we referring with this? That 95% of accidents occur due to workers' own negligence. In this regard, modifying our behavior towards safety is an improvement in safety for everyone. As a safety norm, it is important to know the vehicle circulation preferences within the site. This means that any emergency vehicle always has circulation priority. This could be an ambulance, a fire truck, or any vehicle signaling an emergency. Following that, heavy machinery vehicles have second priority due to their size and longer braking distances. They have circulation priority within the construction site. In third place, light vehicles have priority. This means that when a heavy machinery crosses paths with a light vehicle, the light vehicle must yield the right of way.
My name is Martin Vilch. I am safety officer and part of the TCP safety team. Continuing with the presentation, let's now review some safe work procedures. Working at heights. Working at heights includes any task carried out at a height greater than 2 meters from the point of support of our working platform. To perform work at heights correctly, we must have an anti-fall protection system. This system consists of a safety harness, a lifeline, and an anchor point. The anchor point can be a taut safety rope or an anchor point to a fixed structure. All anti-fall protection systems must be pre-selected based on the conditions of the work at heights. Once we have chosen the different anti-fall protection system elements, we must inspect them to ensure they are not deformed or damaged, thus avoiding possible accidents. When putting on the harness, we must check that it is properly adjusted to the body to minimize the consequences in case of a fall. As you can see, I have now put a safety harness. Let's review the different elements of the anti-fall protection system. As we mentioned before, there is an anchor point that can be a safety rope or an anchor point to a fixed structure. We must connect ourselves to this anchor point using safety hooks. Anti-fall protection systems must have 2 hooks to ensure constant attachment. These hooks are part of the lifeline, which is attached to the dorsal ring of the safety harness, as you can see here. One important thing when using anti-fall protection systems is to correctly adjust the harness to perform the task. In the pelvic area, particularly when securing the ring, we must check that the hand can pass between the leg and the harness in an open position but cannot be removed in a closed position. The use of ladders as work platforms is prohibited. They can only be used to access different work areas. Ladders cannot be made of wood and must be made of aluminum or other sturdy materials. Ladders placed for accessing work areas must be attached to fixed structures, or else someone must hold them from the bottom. When using a ladder to access a work area, it must extend at least 1 meter above the maximum support point. The ratio of the base distance to the maximum height should be 1:4. Climbing the ladder with tools in hand is not allowed. Alternative methods should be planned to transport tools to the work platform. Always maintain 3 points of contact when using the ladder, which can be both hands and 1 foot or both feet and 1 hand. If the ladder is used in an area designated for pedestrian path, area must delimitate the bottom of the ladder to prevent pedestrians from walking near or underneath it, avoiding unwanted accidents. Access via ladder to any work platform over 5 meters in height is prohibited.
Excavation works. The important topics to consider when we work in excavations are the depth at which we are working, remembering that we consider excavation when we work deeper than 1.5 meters. Also, we must consider the impact on nearby existing constructions, the depth to foresee the need for specific shoring or slope methods to prevent the structure from collapsing on those working in the area, and the use of physical barriers in the upper zone to prevent equipment or workers falling into the excavation. Working with mobile equipment. This refers to heavy machinery, which, as we saw earlier, has second priority in circulation. Mobile equipment includes any equipment that performs a function while moving from one point to another. It may be moved for its own purposes or to be transferred from one location to another within the construction site. What is necessary to work with mobile equipment? Well, it should always be operated by personnel trained in using that equipment. They should be used according to their design. They must have a valid technical verification and undergo daily checks to identify any malfunctions and report them to maintenance for proper equipment maintenance. Operating equipment without the required authorization and training is not allowed. As an equipment operator, what should be done? When descending from equipment, the operator should stop the engine, engage the brake system, place all elements at ground level in a secure position, and then proceed to disembark, always using 3 points of contact to avoid possible falls while ascending or descending from the equipment. Work with lifting equipment and rigging. In this context, any lifting task involves raising a load using tools or machinery designed for lifting. This also includes the use of auxiliary elements such as straps, slings, and shackles for safe load movement. Prior to any lifting, a lifting plan must be established and verified by technical personnel, considering the type of element and load to be lifted. Also, the lifting area should be properly delimited to prevent unauthorized access. All lifting equipment must undergo regular inspections, and previously before any lifting, any element who is not in perfect condition must be removed and discarded. Weather conditions such as strong winds, fog, rain, and other environmental factors should also be considered during lifting operations. Moving loads with hands directly on them is strictly forbidden, while guide ropes should be used instead. Additionally, passing under lifted loads is prohibited. The lifting area should be delimited for safety, and all lifting equipment must have its maximum permissible load clearly displayed. Safe conditions for lifting. All machines must have their stabilizers fully extended. Loads should be lifted from their center of gravity, and this should be considered during the planning of the lifting operation. The lifting hooks must be securely closed and have their safety locks always engaged. The stability of the load, the center of gravity, and the type of ground on which the equipment is placed should always be observed.
Continuing with the presentation, let's talk about hand tools and power tools that allow us to perform different kind of tasks. All tools must be in perfect condition, hand tools should be ergonomically suitable for use, and power tools must be in good condition to avoid unwanted electrical contacts. All safety protections on power tools must be respected, and it is strictly prohibited to remove or tamper with them. Periodic checks of tool conditions should be carried out to ensure safety, and if any tools are found to be in poor condition, they should be removed before causing any accidents. Electrical work. This refers to all tasks involving electrical energy for the use of tools or other equipment. The electrical installations in a construction site or project must be authorized and comply with current legal regulations. Only UT-authorized electricians can perform relevant modifications, and these changes should be reflected in the electrical memory of the project. We must ensure that equipment cables are in perfect condition and are not placed on the ground. They should be suspended using hangers or similar methods. Work with hazardous substances. All tasks involving chemical substances must be properly planned, and workers should be trained in the specific chemical products they will handle and be aware of the associated risks. All containers holding chemical products must be appropriately labeled according to the globally harmonized system. Here, we can see some safety pictograms indicating the hazards of different chemical substances. These pictograms can also be found on the safety data sheets for each chemical product, which should be available to workers at the construction site and workplace.
Work in confined spaces. We understand work in confined spaces as tasks performed in areas not designed for the presence of one or more people. In this context, we must consider that access to these areas is limited, usually through only one entry and exit point, and they may have poor ventilation. This means that there might be the presence of other harmful gases or even an absence of oxygen within the space, making it unsuitable for anyone to work in. To enter a confined space, a person must meet certain requirements and conditions, such as having minimal training for the tasks they will perform inside and being physically and psychologically fit. For instance, we shouldn't allow someone with epilepsy to work in a confined space. Moreover, work in confined spaces must be carried out by a team of 2 people at least. One person will be working inside the confined space, and the other will act as an attendant or watchman, which we will explain below. The watchman must maintain constant communication with the person working inside the confined space and be equipped with the necessary work permits for the tasks to be carried out. They must also ensure the blocking of any energy sources that could pose a hazard within the confined space. Additionally, the watchman must block valves that could allow the entry of gases or liquids into the confined space. Their primary responsibility is to monitor the well-being of the person working inside, ensuring they are fit to perform their task. Proper ventilation is also essential. This involves measuring the oxygen levels within the confined space, having an evacuation plan in case of emergencies, and considering how to extract the person if an accident occurs. Adequate lighting and ventilation, whether natural or forced, are necessary as well. Hot work. Hot work refers to tasks involving tools that generate heat, sparks, or incandescent materials. Therefore, any task involving heat generation is considered hot work. Besides proper training for hot work tasks, it is crucial always to have firefighting equipment available near where the hot work will be conducted. Additionally, we must evaluate the materials we are working with to ensure they are not flammable. Implementing screens to prevent the projection of incandescent particles toward other people nearby and properly marking the work area are also essential safety measures. Risk of falling into the water. We understand that we are constructing an extension of a port terminal. In this regard, we will have tasks that will be in or near the water. It is mandatory, for tasks carried out near the water, to wear life jackets. We must be mindful of the depth to which we may be exposed, as the potential fall may not always leave us conscious. That is why the use of life jackets is mandatory, and I repeat, it is mandatory. We must also ensure the presence of appropriate mechanical barriers to prevent a person from falling into the water. Never work alone, so that if someone falls into the water, we can immediately activate the emergency and rescue protocol.
Evacuation and emergency. An emergency is an unforeseen situation that requires specific action and must be resolved as quickly as possible. In case of an emergency, we must act based on the principle, PAS, by the acronym in Spanish, Protect, Alert, and Assist. First, we must protect the injured person, preventing any remaining risk from causing new injuries to them or to us. Then, notify immediate supervisors and emergency medical services, and finally, provide first aid services, only if we are trained to do so. If we lack the necessary knowledge, it's better to contain the situation and not intervene in an injured person. In the event of an evacuation, it is crucial to follow the evacuation leader's orders, move calmly and on foot, not return to the location where the emergency occurred, and ensure the successful completion of the evacuation. During your visit to the construction site, you might encounter a simulated evacuation situation that requires leaving the site. In such cases, it's important to follow the points mentioned earlier carefully. This concludes the safety induction video. We invite you to answer some questions and thank you in advance.